Racist doctor's shocking revelation. The day he discovered his heartwarming lesson about humanity, Dr. William Carter strode through the halls of Jefferson Hospital, a beacon of arrogance in his pristine white coat. His surgical skill earned him a godlike status among peers, but beneath the surface lurked prejudice, a disdain for patients hailing from the city's less affluent neighborhoods. To him, they were merely a reflection of poor life choices. Those scars of circumstance? Just reminders of their failures. It was a hectic Friday evening, the emergency room resembling an orchestra in chaos. Voices blended with the beeping machines, creating an urgent symphony. Amid the turmoil, Maria rushed in, cradling her son Lucas, a fragile beacon of hope after a tragic accident. Tears streaked down her face, her pleading voice echoing through the clamor. "Please, help him," she cried, desperation pouring from her heart. However, Dr. Carter stood aloof, removing his gloves with a shake of his head. He dismissed Maria's turmoil as an inconvenience, a classic case of someone who, in his eyes, didn't deserve his empathy. He prepped for surgery, unaware that fate was about to intervene. Out in the waiting room, a loud thud shattered the frantic rhythm of the emergency room. Mr. Thompson, an old soldier and beloved neighbor to Maria, collapsed, clutching his chest. His history of sacrifice for his country loomed large yet unseen, a heritage of struggles and triumphs that shaped the lives of those around him. The hospital staff rushed to stabilize him, a tapestry of community enveloping the situation, vibrant voices weaving connections of shared humanity. Dr. Carter watched from the sidelines as chaos unfolded. This wasn't his world. He was the surgeon, the savior. Suddenly, a gut-wrenching decision pierced through his clinical detachment. He could save both patients, but time was fleeting. The tension rose as he grappled with a choice that tested his self-assuredness and revealed deep-seated biases he had long nurtured. "Don't lose him," a nurse shouted, her voice breaking through the haze. The panic from the waiting area hummed with urgency, the crowd forming a bond of solidarity as they rallied behind Maria and Mr. Thompson, two lives now intertwined. The weight of their aspirations and fears pressed against Dr. Carter, forcing him to reckon with the humanity of those he so easily dismissed. The community's roar, once background noise, now clamored for recognition inside him. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In that blazing moment, Dr. Carter felt the wall he had built around his heart begin to crack. A dawning realization flooded through him. Both Maria and Mr. Thompson were not mere statistics, but human souls with loves, dreams, and battles that resonated far beyond the walls of the hospital. Time slowed as he stood on the precipice of change. Would he allow his ingrained prejudices to snuff out the light of compassion, or could he embrace the lesson waiting to be discovered? As he prepared to make that pivotal choice, he felt the pulse of the lives at stake echoing in his chest. Would he step into the unknown, facing the truths of his own heart? The stakes had never been higher, and for Dr. Carter, the road ahead seemed a frightening unknown, testing not just his skill, but the very foundation of his humanity. Time hung heavy in the air, vibrating with the weight of Dr. Carter's internal struggle. He glanced at Maria, her face etched with fear, hope mingling with despair. Then, his gaze shifted to Mr. Thompson, whose breaths were shallow, a fierce fight waging within him. In that split second, everything he took for granted crumbled around him. "Get me the crash cart," he commanded, his voice booming over the noise. The clarity of his own authority shocked him. For once, he wasn't just a distant observer. He was stepping into the chaos, bearing witness to humanity laid bare. The room erupted into a flurry of activity. Nurses rushed, the rhythm of their movements synchronized in urgency. But Dr. Carter's focus remained laser-like on the two lives before him. He sprinted to Maria, kneeling to meet her tortured eyes. We're going to do everything we can, I promise. She clutched Lucas tighter, as if his frail form could somehow defy reality. He's not just a patient, Maria sobbed. He's my heart. The simple truth hit Dr. Carter, unraveling threads of indifference he'd woven for so long. As the medical team prepped for both surgeries, shadows loomed over decisions that would alter the course of their lives. Steeling himself, he glanced at Mr. Thompson's figure sprawled on the gurney, surrounded by frantic nurses and doctors working diligently to stabilize him. Time is running out, a voice murmured, cutting through the chaos. With renewed vigor, Dr. Carter made the decision that would mark his transformation. Move Lucas to Suite C. I'll work on him after Mr. Thompson. We can't let him die. The nurses exchanged glances, a mix of surprise and relief flickering across their faces. In that moment, he wasn't just a doctor, he was a guardian of those two souls. Hours sped by in flashes of urgency and brilliant light. His skilled hands no longer felt detached, but instead drove with a clarity that had been hidden beneath layers of ego. With each suture, Dr. Carter discovered pieces of himself that he thought long buried under the weight of superiority. Outside the OR, the atmosphere hung thick with hope and despair. Family members murmured prayers, their rallying cries echoing the unity of an intertwined community. Mrs. Thompson, clutching her husband's worn dog tags, whispered stories of their past, of choices made, lives enriched, and the heavy sacrifices that came with love. Dr. Carter paused for a moment, absorbing the tears, laughter, and heartache that resonated in tandem. This was life, messy and beautiful. It left no room for his biases. The doctor's pulse quickened, a newfound realization simmering within him. Perhaps he wasn't as invincible or infallible as he had once believed. After what felt like an eternity, the surgeries concluded. Exhausted but resolute, Dr. Carter stepped into the waiting area. He saw Maria, still holding her son, and Mr. Thompson's family, each face reflecting the silence of uncertainty. He took a deep breath, his heart pounding for more than just the toll of surgery. Both surgeries were successful, he announced, feeling the weight of emotions pour from his words. Relief washed over the room. But beneath the surface, he sensed the change blooming within himself, a curiosity sparked to learn who they were outside their current circumstances. Thank you. Thank you. Maria's voice broke, trembling with gratitude. As he witnessed her joy resonating through the room, he whispered a silent promise to himself, but as their smiles spread, so did uncertainty. Would they allow him back into their lives? And how could he traverse the gaping divide he had long placed between himself and the communities he had dismissed? As Dr. Carter looked into the faces surrounding him, he couldn't shake the sense that this was merely the beginning. The healing he would need to undertake stretched far beyond the operating table, reaching deep into his heart and the lives he'd swept aside. Would he have the courage to embrace this new path? The journey ahead loomed vast, filled with questions that tugged at his spirit. And with that, the opening to a fresh chapter in life stirred within him. Dr. Carter felt a rush of emotions as he stepped back into the reality of the waiting area. Faces surrounded him, a mix of relief and shaky hope hung thick in the air. The familiar sterile scent of antiseptics swirled with the warmth of humanity, adding layers to the heaviness he now felt. He had done the work, saved lives, yet an unfamiliar tug at his heart reminded him that this was only the surface of a deep ocean. Maria approached him, holding Lucas close to her chest, as if shielding him from a world that had momentarily been hostile. Thank you, Dr. Carter, she breathed, her eyes shimmering with tears. I don't know how we could ever repay you. No repayment is needed, he replied, the sincerity in his voice surprising even himself. The room shifted as Mrs. Thompson approached too, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. Can I get a moment? She asked, her voice shaky yet demanding respect. Dr. Carter nodded, motioning for her to sit down. As she settled in front of him, he sensed the pulse of her pain. You saved him, she said, looking him straight in the eye. You saved my husband. But I want to know why now. Why did you choose to fight back when lives were at stake? His chest constricted. The question hung between them, sharp and revealing. "I didn't always see people as I should have," he admitted, feeling the truth burn in his throat. "In my mind, I kept distance. I didn't want to confront the reality of their lives." As she processed his words, her expression softened. "We're all here, every day, demanding help, loving our families, facing our fears. Your hands were the ones to save him, but it takes more than skill to truly heal." She reached out, placing a hand on his arm. "Thank you for stepping into our lives today." The moment felt almost surreal. Dr. Carter's heart raced, and he could hear the echo of vulnerability in her voice. Her words stirred a transformation deep inside him, and he could almost see the layers of detachment peeling away. "Dr. Carter?" A familiar voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Nurse Jenna, her brow furrowed with concern. "We have a situation in the ER, an accident victim coming in. It's severe." His instincts kicked in. "Let us move," he said, pushing through the emotional fog that clouded him. As he rushed past the waiting area, he felt a flurry of energy, the kind he had often denied himself. Each step reminded him of the lives he had sidestepped, the smiles he had overlooked, and the stories he hadn't cared to know. In the ER, chaos was relentless. Sirens blared outside while onlookers in the hallway whispered. As Dr. Carter dove into the throes of urgency, he found his hands steady and his heart open. The victim, a teenager, barely breathing, was a reminder of all the vulnerable lives he'd taken for granted. "Prepare for intubation," he shouted, focusing on the frantic but focused team around him. Voices echoed, commands flew. But amidst the chaos, a familiar face caught his eye. It was Lucas. He had been wheeled back for further examination, his fragile body still recovering from surgery. Maria was beside him, looking small and frail as she clung to her son's hand. The sight struck Dr. Carter like a jolt of electricity that he turned to one of the interns next to him, voice steady yet low. "Go check on them. Make sure they know we'll keep him safe." The intern nodded, rushing off. Dr. Carter found himself once again pulled between two worlds, the frantic activity of the ER and the quiet, tender moment Maria and Lucas shared. This was not just about surgery, it was about connection, about each soul breathing life into another. As the hours dragged on, questions lingered in his heart. How could he carry this newfound awareness into a world he had perceived through a narrow lens? Would he find a way to engage with these lives beyond the sterile environment of the hospital? The echo of his own unlearning weighed heavily yet empowering. He understood that his journey was just beginning. Dr. Carter felt eager to uncover what lay ahead, thrumming with a sense of purpose he never expected to feel, but... Just then, the intercom crackled to life, cutting sharply through his thoughts. Code blue in room 215. The urgency rang in the air, drawing his focus back to the present. Would he be able to face another life hanging by a thread? Dr. Carter felt a rush of adrenaline as he grabbed the nearest crash cart. His mind raced with thoughts of the patient waiting behind the door. The weight of urgency fell heavily on his shoulders, but the lingering warmth from Maria's gratitude and Mrs. Thompson's piercing question echoed in his heart. "Stay focused," he muttered to himself. "People are counting on you." He charged into room 215, the atmosphere electrifying. A young woman lay on the bed, her skin pale and slick with sweat. The monitor beeped erratically, veins standing out against her fragile frame. A nurse was already working with some equipment, and Dr. Carter jumped in beside her. "Let us get her stabilized," he ordered, pulling on gloves as he assessed the situation. "What do we have?" 22-year-old female, massive internal bleeding. "She was in a car accident." "BP is crashing," the nurse replied swiftly, her hands moving expertly through the steps. Dr. Carter quickly began guiding the team with calm precision. "Start and 4 need fluids, now. We're losing her." Every command cut through the panic, centering the chaos around their shared mission to save a life. The vibrant energy of the ER surged as they all focused together. Despite the chaos, He couldn't shake the images of Lucas and Maria from his mind, the tenderness of that moment where hope flickered like a candle. Even in the darkest of emergencies, he realized he could hold on to that connection. There was a fight to be had, but it wasn't just about medicine. It was about people. As they worked frantically, he couldn't help but glance at the young woman's face. She was so young, barely out of her teens. He caught a glimpse of a silver bracelet on her wrist engraved with "Always in my heart." The simple phrase struck him. It was a reminder of the love that connected the living and those they held dear. "Anesthesia ready," the nurse announced, breaking his reverie. "Great. Let us intubate," Dr. Carter responded briskly, fingers steady. He knew what needed to be done, but with every moment that passed, he felt the weight of someone's life depending on him, not just as a doctor, but as a human being embarking on a journey toward understanding. Minutes stretched into heartbeats as they fought to stabilize her. The sound of the monitors provided a rhythm, pulsating like a metronome of hope interspersed with fear. Suddenly, the room was filled with the alarm of the heart monitor flatlining. His heart plunged into despair. It was a moment he had feared but also wrestled with, pulling him to a place he thought he had buried deep inside. "No!" he shouted, forcing the fear out of his voice. "Get the paddles. Charge to 200. Hands moved in a blur. Defibrillator pads were swiftly placed on her chest. He stepped back, eyes locked on the monitor. The room fell silent, a breath hung in the air. Clear. He pressed the button. A jolt raced through the woman's chest, and for a heartbeat, everything held still, then life. The monitor blared back to life, registering a heartbeat. "Come on," Dr. Carter whispered, almost reverently. A sigh of relief swept through him, but it was also bitter. This was only the beginning of a long road ahead. How many others faced a battle just as fierce? More fluids. He barked, his confidence tightening into steel once more. But just as the team began to stabilize the young woman, an image snuck into his mind. Lucas smiling, Maria's joy flooding their small world. He felt a fierce determination surge within him. Here, in this moment of confrontation and chaos, was the opportunity to embrace the whirlwind of life. As they worked to keep the woman alive, Dr. Carter contemplated what it would truly mean to carry their stories with him, not as burdens but as bridges towards compassion. And just then, an intern burst into the room, panting. "Dr. Carter, there's a family waiting in the lobby. They're asking about her. They say it's urgent." Time suspended once more. Would he be able to stand before them, and share news that could bring either light or darkness? What words would he find to bridge the gap between despair and hope? Dr. Carter caught his breath, his mind racing. The weight of that expectation pressed down like a heavy stone. Would he be the bearer of good news or the harbinger of tragedy? The young woman lay vulnerable on the table before him, fighting for her life, her family waiting with bated breath outside. "Focus, Carter." He clenched his jaw, bringing his attention back to the task at hand. "We need to prep for possible surgery." The nurse nodded, moving with swift efficiency, drawing up medications. Dr. Carter felt a swell of gratitude for the team around him, their shared urgency, their clarity of purpose. They were in this together, wrestling with the fate of another human being, holding on to the threads of life. "Vitals holding steady," the nurse announced, though her voice held the tightness of uncertainty. Dr. Carter leaned closer to the patient. Her breathing was faint but present. He could see the light flicker within her, the essence of all she was. A daughter, a friend, a dreamer with stories yet to unfold. The shimmer of the bracelet caught his eye again, pulling at his heart. "Always in my heart." The word seemed to resonate through the chaos around him. Footsteps echoed from the hallway, and he turned abruptly as the doors swung open. The family's faces piled in, etched with anxiety and fear. A man in front, trembling slightly, clutched a woman beside him. Their eyes were wide, searching for hope in the midst of despair. Dr. Carter inhaled deeply, the air thick with urgency and uncertainty. This was a pivotal moment, a moment that could define their lives. They deserved honesty but also compassion. Let us give them a moment, he said to the intern, who remained at the doorway. That he stepped forward, composing himself. I'm Dr. Carter. I'm treating your daughter. As soon as he spoke, the expressions on their faces shifted from hope to caution. Is she okay? The man asked, his voice shaky but demanding a real answer. Your daughter is in critical condition. She suffered a severe injury in an accident and is fighting for her life. There was no sugarcoating it. The words hung in the air like shadows. But the woman beside him reached for her husband's arm, her hope already beginning to crumble. Is there a chance? Can you save her? Dr. Carter's heart shifted. Memories of Lucas and Maria flickered at the edges of his mind, and suddenly he was reminded of the fragility of every moment they had, the joy in every shared story. We're doing everything we can. She's showing some signs of stability, but it's still very touch and go. The family's eyes glistened with unshed tears, blending sadness and fear. Yet, in the depths of despair, a flicker of strength shone through, a determination forged from love. The woman spoke, her voice trembling. Please, she's our everything. At that moment, Dr. Carter felt a stirring awakening deep within him. This was not just about medicine. It was about connection, love, vulnerability, and fighting to keep the stories alive. His heart ached as he struggled to find the right words, words that could either ruin or uplift. We're not giving up. Your daughter's story matters, and we will do everything in our power to help her. The man nodded, his resolve hardening. Then we'll wait. You do what you need to do. Dr. Carter turned back toward the room, filled with a surge of purpose. He thought once more about the power of human connection and how those connections had the ability to transcend the darkest shadows. As he took a step away, another doctor appeared at the entrance to the room. Carter, we need you in or now. Panic surged through him at the urgency in the doctor's voice. This was it, the moment of truth. Let us go. He said, refocusing as adrenaline coursed through him again. He walked quickly, determination fueling him. Yet only one thought cascaded through his mind. Would the fight be enough to write another chapter in this young woman's story? His heart raced. Time was crunched, but all he could think was what would happen if he lost her. Would he stand before that family again, knowing he had to face their grief? The doors swung shut behind him, sealing him in a place filled with uncertainty and hope. The echo of life and death decisions whispered around him as the team prepared. Would he have the courage to embrace the vulnerability of this moment? And was he truly ready to face what lay ahead? As the doors clicked shut, Dr. Carter felt a chill run through him. The sterile scent of antiseptic filled the air, a stark reminder of where he stood. He couldn't help but glance around, taking in the familiar sights of the operating room, the gleaming instruments, the bright overhead lights, and the rhythmic beeping of monitors. Each sound echoed like a reminder of the stakes at hand. Prep her for induction. A voice shouted, slicing through the tension. He nodded, quickly shifting his focus to the anesthesiologist, who was already expertly drawing up the medication. He approached the table where the young woman lay, her body a fragile canvas of possibilities, but she was still there, still fighting. He placed a hand on her shoulder, a silent promise that he would do everything in his power to protect her life. He glanced at the bracelet again, searching for a clue, a connection. With each passing moment, the rush of urgency intensified. It wasn't just about her survival, it was about the lives intertwined with hers. He thought of the family waiting just outside, their faces etched with hope and fear. The operation began, fast-paced and relentless. As he guided the scalpel through her skin, he could feel the weight of the world pressing down on him. Thoughts of the family surrounded him like fog. They were trusting him, believing in him. Every stitch and every procedure was part of a delicate dance of life. Pressure is dropping. The nurse's tense voice broke through his concentration, sending another spike of adrenaline coursing through him. Dr. Carter's heart raced as he fought to maintain calmness in the chaos. He couldn't lose her. He exchanged swift glances with his team, a silent conversation of determination igniting among them. They worked seamlessly, minds and hands in sync. Dr. Carter felt a surge of gratitude for their shared commitment, a collective heartbeat, fighting for this young woman's life together. But he couldn't shake the nagging thought in the back of his mind. What if they lost her? What if all this effort was in vain? The worry gnawed at him, threatening to pull his focus away from the task at hand. Start CPR. Another voice rang through the turbulence. The world spun, the beeping monitors changed tempo, reverberating like warnings, pushing against him, demanding his attention. He stepped back for a moment, his heart pounding in an erratic rhythm. He closed his eyes, blocking everything out in that brief second of vulnerability. In the silence of his mind, he felt the weight of the woman's story. Her laughter, her dreams, her simple joys fought to break free from the chaos. Dr. Carter opened his eyes, resolute she would not become just another statistic. Let us push through. We've got this. His voice came out stronger than he felt, a rallying cry for his team. They resumed, the procedure blending into a rhythm relentless and powerful. Dr. Carter found a beat, one that mirrored the strength he saw in her family, a resilience that transcended. It pushed him, inspired him to forge ahead, to fight harder. Finally, along the thin line between life and death, he felt it a pulse. Weak, but there. Dr. Carter's breath caught in his throat as hope surged within him. He turned, catching the glance of his intern. Keep monitoring vitals. He shouted, urgency flowing between them, the moment stretched, heavy with meaning. Would this brave fight be enough to save her? And as he looked down at her, a flicker of awareness ignited inside him. What if she was more than just a patient? What if each person they touched held fragments of whole worlds? In the shadows of uncertainty, the glow of a possible transformation awaited. Could they bring her back long enough for her story to continue? And if they did, what would that mean for everyone involved? As they fought the time, something began to shift in Dr. Carter's heart, a stirring of understanding that felt deeply profound. The struggle for life continued. What awaited them on the other side of this battle? Dr. Carter felt a rush of exhilaration as he held on to that faint pulse. It was a fragile lifeline, yet it sparked something stronger within him. He shot another glance at the monitors. The numbers were still precariously low, but for the first time since entering the operating room, a sense of hope started to weave through the tension. Is she stabilizing? He asked, his voice steady despite his pounding heart. The intern nodded, eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and relief. We're getting there. She replied, adding a quick adjustment to the flow. Every second felt like an eternity. The surgical team continued their work, each movement practiced and precise. Dr. Carter's gaze flicked back to the young woman. Her pale cheeks, framed by curls that curled softly against the surgical drapes, seemed to be painted with life once again. The thought that her laughter, the metaphorical warmth of her dreams, could still be a reality for her unfolded quietly within him. In the midst of it all, he felt the gravitational pull of her family just outside the door. Each pulse of life in the room seemed to resonate with the worry pressing against that thin barrier. He couldn't help but imagine them pacing, whispering prayers, fighting the fight as much as he was. What's her story? He murmured, almost to himself. It was a question that demanded an answer, one that transcended the clinical detachment of the operating room. This was not just a procedure, it felt like a chance to rewrite her narrative. The team worked on, the rhythm of their efforts pushing against time. Dr. Carter's confidence surged. Suddenly, he realized he had been holding on to her journey as fiercely as his own. The world around him faded away, leaving only the two of them, her fragile energy against his relentless will. Let us prepare for internal bleeding, Dr. Carter commanded, feeling the stakes elevate once more. Scalpel. His hands were steady as he maneuvered through layers of tissue. The lines between body and spirit blurred. Every stitch felt like it carried a part of her story. He could almost hear her voice in the silence, a blend of joy, frustration, and determination. Then, amid the clatter of instruments, a low hum reverberated from the heart monitor. The rhythm wasn't just a sound, it was a heartbeat, a pulse of renewed life. It grew stronger as the team continued their work, each second adding color to the video of her life that played in Dr. Carter's mind. Dr. Carter. The nurse called out, urgency lacing her voice. We're stabilizing her. Looks like blood flow is returning. A wave of relief washed over him, but he couldn't rest. Memories danced on the edges of his mind, lives lost through hesitation and fear, all the moments he wished he could change. This one was different. This one mattered. Keep the pressure on her chest, he declared, feeling the gravity of those words. Before long, the sterile air shifted, it filled with hope, and with it, a warmth began to forge connections deeper than surgery. In the midst of his focus, Dr. Carter felt the burden lift. What if humanity thrived in moments like these, where survival wasn't solely about lives saved? What if it was about stories rewritten, about healing for families that seemed impossibly distant? Almost there. Dr. Carter pushed through, determination flaring inside him. With each scrape of the blade, he felt their hearts beat as one. Is this what matters? He thought, wrestling with thoughts that seemed to converge into a revelation. Perhaps there was a lesson here, buried deep in this fight, the understanding that they were all woven from the same fabric of experience and emotion, and just when they seemed to reach a climax of success, a sudden alarm blared, slicing through the atmosphere like a knife. The monitors flickered with urgency once more. Panic rippled through the room, and his heart sank. Code Blue. Someone shouted, what could possibly await them next in this relentless battle for life? Dr. Carter's heart raced as the words Code Blue echoed through the room like a chilling whisper. The air crackled with a new tension, heavy and looming. It was as though the walls of the operating room had formed their own cage, closing in around the delicate dance of life and death. Clear the table, he shouted, urgency embedding his every command. The surgical team understood the gravity of the situation and sprung into action. Minutes felt like seconds as chaos descended, each member of the team shifting into their designated roles, a familiar rhythm overshadowed by a new dread. He leaned closer to the monitor, his hands trembling slightly. The previously steady heartbeat had faltered, and the line on the display was now jagged, flickering uncertainly. Panic clawed at the edges of his resolve. What is happening? He barked, frowning at the intern as she adjusted the monitor. Some sort of arrhythmia, she replied, her voice tight with fear. It's like she's fighting against everything we've done. For a moment, Dr. Carter felt paralyzed by the enormity of the moment. His mind flashed back to the faces of her family, waiting just beyond the thin door, hopeful, anxious, clinging to the possibility of a tomorrow. He couldn't let them down. He refused to be another doctor tied to excuses and lost causes. Let us move. We can't let her slip away, he urged, his voice steadier now as adrenaline surged. Charge to 200. Someone called out, and Dr. Carter felt the tense focus of the team sharpen. Clear. The room fell silent as electricity arced through the monitors, and they all held their breath, leaning in. The woman on the operating table jolted, her body instinctively reacting, but the flickering voltage was followed by an even harsher silence. She remained unresponsive, and dread settled back into the air like a dense fog. Again. Charge to 300. Dr. Carter's voice cut through the haze, pushing him forward, but in his heart, a fear began to take hold, a dark shadow whispering that this time might be different. As they prepared for yet another attempt, something deep within him shifted. This wasn't just about saving a life, it was about every moment that had led to this one. She was someone's daughter, sister, perhaps a friend. Would they have to face a world without her? The thought felt too heavy to bear. Open her up. Dr. Carter suddenly shouted, a flicker of desperation driving him onward. His eyes were wide with determination. We need to see what's going on. There's got to be something we can fix. With more scissors and scalpels now separating flesh and bone, he could feel the tension thickening around the table. Every slice led him deeper into the fragile echo of life. The room was filled with a soft whisper of encouragement from the nursing staff, their faith hanging on his words, but just then, as if in answer to his frantic plea, the heart monitor began to beep steadily, a small, tantalizing glimmer of promise. It was faint, but it was there. Relief washed over Dr. Carter, though he held back his breath, unwilling to tempt fate. "Stay with us," he whispered to her, almost prayerfully. "You've got to fight." Those words became a mantra, urging him as he poured every ounce of his focus into the operation. And with each heartbeat that echoed from the monitor, he felt a strange connection forming not only between the two of them but binding together everyone fighting outside that door. Yet, the door creaked open slightly, pulling him from his introspection. A pair of worried eyes peeked through the family, raw emotion written all over their faces. He barely had time to compose himself when he felt an unyielding tug in his chest. Would it lead to redemption, or despair? The thin veil between them could shatter any moment. As he prepared for the final attempt, he felt the weight of that unspoken truth settle deeply. What truly mattered was not just the life he fought to save but the lives that meant the most to others and the stories that were still waiting to be told. Would their stories intertwine, or would this be the moment when everything came crashing down? Dr. Carter steadied his hands, the cool, sterile instruments glistening under the bright lights of the operating room. His focus narrowed down to the woman before him, her chest rising and falling ever so slightly. With every stitch he made, he silently willed her to fight. Each heartbeat that surged through the monitor was a tiny victory, singing out a reminder that hope was still alive. "Come on, don't give up on us," he murmured, almost as if she could hear him. The room felt charged with energy, the unspoken prayers of the entire team wrapping around them like a protective shield. But just as relief began to tiptoe in with each beep, doubt crept back. A flicker on the screen caught his eye. The heart rhythm faltered again, sending a fresh wave of panic cascading through him. No, no, no. He could feel the crushing weight of the moment pressing down heavier. "Get ready to charge again," he barked, frustration lacing his voice. His eyes darted up to the intern whose expression mirrored his own turmoil and desperation. She barely nodded, gaining her own strength from the gravity of the situation. Clear. The electricity surged anew, echoing through the room as they all held their breath, collectively shaking under that tension. The shock jolted the woman's body again, and for a fleeting second, it felt like time suspended. It was in that split second, with everyone's eyes glued to the monitor, that Dr. Carter sensed something, a twitch, a reaction. The heart monitor skipped, then steadied once more, its beeping becoming a gentle rhythm, slowly rebuilding the air of hope in the room. Yes. Yes. His heart soared along with the rhythm, but he kept his composure intact, knowing they were far from out of the woods. "Let us do everything we can. I need more suction." His words came out like cannon fire, propelling the team into action yet again. As the surgery progressed, he lost track of time. Sweat beaded on his brow, but each bead felt like a testament to his resolve. The earlier panic receded, replaced by an overwhelming sense of duty and connection. The woman beneath him wasn't just an abstract patient, she was a person with a life full of stories, a whole world waiting for her beyond this room. Moments passed, each one filled with steady breathing and determined concentration, until finally, he spotted what had been obscured, the source of the sudden arrhythmia. It was a pinched artery, twisted in a way that could be fixed. "Got it. Prepare to clip," he shouted, exhilaration igniting his voice like a flare in the dark. As the surgical instruments moved with purpose, he felt every part of him locked into that singular moment. This wasn't just about the medical procedures, it was about humanity, about the grit that lay beneath each pulse and breath. Suddenly, a muffled sound broke through, a gentle sobbing from outside the room. When he glanced over, the family stood huddled together, a mosaic of emotion dancing on their features. A mother's hand clasped tightly to a father's shoulder, uncertainty and hope swirling in their expressions. In that instance, Dr. Carter realized the bigger picture that had always existed just out of reach. They had all been grappling with their own fears and vulnerabilities. It was more than skill, it was compassion, a shared fight against an unseen enemy. With that realization, a warmth unfurled in his chest. One final push and the artery was now clear. Just like that, the heart began to pump more steadily. The beeping quickened, transitioning into a sonorous rhythm that filled the room with a sense of triumph. "Her heart is back," he sighed, almost reverently, looking down at the woman whose life he had fought for. For a moment, time stood still, and every pulse echoed not just with medical success, but with the beauty of connection and resilience. As he cleaned up, thoughts began to swirl in his mind, thoughts about the family waiting outside and what had just transpired. That nagging question bubbled up: who had he been before this moment? Would the stories he witnessed tonight change how he viewed the world? Beyond these walls? As he stepped back, taking a breath and gathering himself, he glanced at the door again. It was slightly ajar, revealing the family still standing there, clinging tightly to each other, hope glimmering in their eyes. What would he say to them? How could he express the gravity of this moment, the lesson of a lifetime that stitched their fates together? Before he knew it, he took a step closer to the door, ready to share a message that might change everything. Dr. Carter took a deep breath, steadying himself as he prepared to face the family waiting just outside. The weight of their hope felt palpable, binding him to the truth of what had just happened in the operating room. He pushed open the door, stepping into a moment filled with silence, uncertainty, and a flickering light of potential joy. The family looked up, eyes wide with anticipation, every face marked by a palette of emotions, a desperate hope mixed with dread. "Is she?" the father began, voice trembling as he reached for his wife's hand. Dr. Carter took a moment, locking eyes with each of them before speaking. "Your daughter is stable now. We cleared an obstruction to her artery and her heart is beating strong again." Relief flooded the room, washing over their faces like sunshine breaking through storm clouds, but as he spoke, something deeper tugged at him. It wasn't just about the surgery or medical jargon, it was about their lives. "She's back, and that's thanks to your love and the strength you all carry together," he emphasized, feeling an unfamiliar warmth blossom inside him. Their worries transformed into tears of joy, as the emotional barriers began to dissolve. Thank you, doctor." The mother sobbed, rushing forward to embrace him, an act of pure, unrestrained gratitude. Dr. Carter found himself wrapped in an unexpected hug, feeling the genuine pulse of connection right there. It pulled him out of his rigid shell, reminding him of the true essence of healing. Stepping back, he wiped a tear from his cheek, blinking in surprise. "You don't have to thank me," he replied softly. "I'm only doing my job. And believe me, I've learned so much more tonight than I ever expected." His voice cracked, revealing vulnerability he rarely allowed himself to show. Moments passed, lingering in warmth as the family's collective sigh echoed in the small hallway. The darkness they had faced together began to fade away, leaving light to illuminate their path forward. He noticed the father, his eyes glistening with pride and relief, nodding in understanding. "If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to see her again. Let's check on her strength together," he suggested, hoping to forge deeper connections beyond the medical boundaries. As they walked back toward the room, a tide of emotions swept over him. He felt like a new man, shedding the prejudices that had once held him captive. With each step, he recognized the dignity in every life beyond the hospital walls. They entered the room cautiously, and the sight of the young woman swaddled comfortably in bedsheets was a relief. Monitors beeped softly, the gentle rhythm reaffirming life. He was taken by the image of her hand adorned with that bracelet, "Always in my heart." "Perfect timing," he said with a genuine smile. "She's fighting. Just like how you all fought for her." The family gathered around, forming a circle of unity that radiated warmth and love. As he spoke to them, digging deeply into their stories and sharing his intention to get to know them, the realization dawned: the journey was only beginning for all of them. Together, they would embrace the lessons learned within these sterile walls, lessons of compassion, empathy, and interconnectedness. Dr. Carter felt the heaviness in his heart lift, replaced by a sense of purpose. He would strive to reach out to the community beyond the surgeon's code, to listen, to learn, and to uplift the stories of those who had once been mere statistics in his mind. Walking away from that young woman's recovery wouldn't just be a return to routine, it would mark the start of a renewed commitment to embrace every life and every story. Discovering beauty in the everyday lives he had once disregarded. As the family exchanged tearful hugs of gratitude, Dr. Carter felt an overwhelming urge to act with purpose. He turned to them one last time, the intense connection stronger than ever. "We will walk this journey together. You're not alone anymore." Together as one, they left the hospital, hearts full and transformed, each carrying a piece of hope for the future. And for Dr. Carter, the journey ahead sparkled with all the potential and promise to continually bridge the gap between skill and soul. He stepped into the morning sunlight, breathing in crisp air that felt alive with energy. From that day forward, he knew every moment mattered. He wouldn't just be a doctor, he would be a listener, a companion, and a champion for every life, forging connections that would last long beyond the operating room. And as the world spun ever onward, he felt a rush of gratitude for the lessons learned, pledging to never forget the humanity that danced around hope and love amidst the struggles they faced together. This was transformation, the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with stories yet to unfold. Now is the moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and move you. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Like this video right now to feed the algorithm so that more people can experience this transformation. Let us know how this ending made you feel by commenting below. And please, share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this message of hope and connection. Your support makes all the difference.